My mill was unaware that I earned $50,000 a month. She aggressively threw hot water on me and kicked me out of the house, mockingly saying, "Beggars who can't work. You need to get out of this house and never show your face again." I left, but the next day when she woke up, she was shocked to see that her house. "People like you, with no job and little education, are not welcome in this house." Those were the cruel words my mother-in-law said to me. Right after that, she poured hot water on me. I cried out in pain, "It's hot. Please stop." I couldn't believe what was happening. Her behavior shocked me. Pouring boiling water on someone is a terrible thing to do, no matter the reason. Thankfully, I wasn't burned, but it could have been much worse. I was in disbelief. How could my mother-in-law treat me like this? What made it even harder to accept was that her words were not even true. It wasn't me who was unemployed, it was my husband, Jack. He had lost his job, but I had been working hard to support the family. Yet, here I was being blamed and insulted. My anger started to grow. I felt like I had reached my limit. I couldn't tolerate her behavior any longer. I decided to stand up for myself. I told her, "If this is how you feel about me, then I'll leave." "You win." My mother-in-law didn't seem upset at all. In fact, she looked happy and said, "Finally, you're leaving. That makes things easier for me." Her cold reaction made it clear that she didn't regret what she had done. I realized I didn't want to stay in such a toxic place anymore. Without wasting time, I packed my things and left. I went back to my parents' home, where I knew I would be treated with kindness. What my mother-in-law didn't know was that I wasn't helpless. In fact, I was the one keeping her household afloat financially. Since my husband had lost his job, I had started trading stocks and I was earning about $50,000 a month. I didn't need to rely on her or anyone else to survive. Even if she came to me later, asking for help with money, I decided I wouldn't help her. She had treated me so badly, and I didn't think she deserved my kindness. She would have to live with the consequences of her actions. I had been married to Jack for about 3 years. We met at university, where we both studied economics. After we graduated, we both got jobs at different finance companies. Even though we were busy, we kept our relationship strong. For years after we started dating, Jack proposed to me. He said, "Angela, I will make you happy. Please marry me." I believed him. I thought I would have a happy life with him, but things didn't turn out as I had imagined. Now, looking back, I'm glad I had the strength to leave. Sometimes, walking away from a bad situation is the best thing you can do for yourself. When Jack proposed to me, I happily said yes. "I'm looking forward to it," I told him. We decided to get married and thought we could build a happy life together. I was excited about starting our own family and living as a married couple. However, not long after, Jack said something I wasn't expecting. "Hey, Angela," he began, "would you quit your job and move in with me at my mom's house?" I was surprised. "What? I don't mind quitting my job, but we're newlyweds. I'd like for us to live just the two of us." "I understand," he said, "but I'm worried about leaving my mom alone." "Don't worry, I'll make sure it won't be hard on you." Jack's father had passed away when Jack was in middle school, so he had lived with his mom ever since. He was an only child and felt responsible for taking care of her. Understanding his feelings, I agreed. "Okay," I said, "I'll live with you and your mom." 3 weeks later, we moved into Jack's family home. At first, my mother-in-law seemed happy to have Jack back. She greeted us with a smile, but as soon as she looked at me, her expression changed. Her smile disappeared, and she gave me a cold, hard stare. It was clear she wasn't happy that I was there. She muttered something under her breath, but I couldn't hear what she said. "It sounded like you didn't need to come here." I tried to ignore it and smiled, but deep down, I started to feel worried about living with her. Despite this, the first day passed without any major problems. The next morning, I was woken up by my mother-in-law shouting at me, "Are you still sleeping? Hurry up and make breakfast." I looked at the clock. It was only 5 a.m., still dark outside. I couldn't believe she wanted breakfast so early. I sat up, confused. "Why so early?" I asked. "Don't just lay around because you're not working," she scolded. I was still half asleep but didn't want to argue with her, so I got up and started preparing breakfast. While I was cooking, she kept criticizing me. "Hurry up. Why are you so slow?" she snapped. I felt stressed and rushed, but I kept going. Finally, after 20 minutes, breakfast was ready. "I'm sorry for making you wait," I said politely. "You finally finished? Can't you do it faster?" She complained again. Her harsh words stung, but I didn't say anything back. I realized this was only the beginning of what life with her might be like. As I sat down for breakfast, I couldn't help but feel uneasy. Living with my mother-in-law was already proving to be much harder than I had expected. I wanted to tell my mother-in-law that it was impossible to cook any faster, but instead, I just smiled and tried to let it go. However, she wasn't done with her complaints. "What is this? The soup is too salty," she said, glaring at me. "I don't think it's that salty," I replied cautiously. "What are you saying? Are you implying something is wrong with my taste? Are you trying to kill me by feeding me such salty food?" she snapped. Her words left me stunned. I had never intended or even thought of such a thing. Why was she accusing me like this? And why was she so harsh on me? Her behavior was confusing and hurtful. Trying to understand, I gathered the courage to ask, "Mother-in-law, why are you so harsh on me?" "What are you talking about?" "I'm not being harsh," she said, acting as if she didn't know what I meant. "Or, are you trying to make me look like the bad person here?" "No, that's not what I mean," I stammered, feeling overwhelmed by her attitude. Her pressure made it hard for me to continue the conversation. Finish eating, then clean the dishes. After that, there's laundry to do, she ordered. There's no time to rest. From that day on, my mother-in-law continued to treat me harshly. Every day, she criticized me over everything. It was exhausting, both mentally and physically. When I cleaned the house, she would say, "You missed the dust in the corners." When I did the laundry, she'd point out, "There's still a stain here. Are you even doing it properly?" After a month of living like this, I felt like I couldn't take it anymore. I was at my breaking point. One night, I decided to talk to Jack about it. "Jack, I need to talk to you," I began. "Your mother has been saying mean things to me every day, and it's really hard for me. Could you please ask her not to speak to me that way?" I expected Jack to comfort me or at least respond, but he said nothing. His silence made me even more upset. "Jack, are you listening?" asked again, frustrated. Then I noticed something odd. He looked pale, like he wanted to say something but didn't know how. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" I asked, concerned. Jack hesitated before speaking. "Actually, I've been fired from my job." I was shocked. "What? Is this some kind of joke?" "No," he said quietly. "The company had to lay off a lot of employees because profits dropped. They decided to downsize and I lost my job." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So, you're unemployed now?" I asked, struggling to process the news. "Yes," he said. "Starting tomorrow, I won't have a job." I sat there in silence, unable to find the words to respond. My world suddenly felt even heavier. After receiving the notice that I would lose my job in a month, I realized I had only a short time left to work. Thankfully, I had been using what I learned at the securities company to trade stocks. In the beginning, it was tough, and I made some mistakes. But over time, I got better, and eventually started earning about $50,000 a month. Because of this, we weren't struggling financially. I focused on supporting Jack and tried to forget about the daily harassment from my mother-in-law. The next day, I decided to stay strong for Jack. He had just lost his job, and I felt it was my duty to support him. My mother-in-law's harsh treatment continued, but I endured it for his sake. A month passed, and Jack officially became unemployed. At first, he made some effort to look for a new job. However, as time went on, he started staying home more and more, making excuses about why he wasn't applying to places. "Shouldn't you take your job search more seriously?" I gently suggested one day. "I'm looking," he replied, "but it's hard to find a company that suits me." It didn't seem like he was serious about finding work. I felt frustrated but kept quiet and continued to support our household financially. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law's treatment of me got worse. She constantly criticized me, and I started feeling more and more exhausted. At first, I thought I had to endure her behavior because Jack was unemployed, but as time went on, I no longer felt that way. I began to feel drained and unhappy every day. One morning, Jack left the house earlier than usual. It was unusual for him to go out so early, and I hoped he was finally taking his job search seriously. After he left, I got started on my usual chores. As I cleaned, my mother-in-law sat on the living room sofa, sipping her coffee. "Make sure you clean properly," she said sharply. "Don't miss any spots." I ignored her comments and continued cleaning. Suddenly, she threw a tantrum and started yelling at me. "How dare you ignore me? You're just a mere daughter-in-law. You don't even have a real job," she screamed. I tried to stay calm and kept cleaning, but her anger only grew. She stormed up to me and yelled even louder, "Unemployed and useless people like you have no place in this house. You should leave." Before I could respond, she grabbed the pot of boiling water she had prepared for her coffee and poured it on me. The scalding water splashed onto my skin. "It's hot. Please stop," I screamed, shocked and in pain. This was the breaking point. I realized I could no longer live in such a toxic environment. Her behavior was cruel and unacceptable, and I knew something had to change. I screamed without thinking when my mother-in-law poured hot water on me. Luckily, the water wasn't boiling, so I didn't get burned, but it could have been a terrible accident. Even so, I was shocked and shaken by her actions. Carolyn, my mother-in-law, didn't seem to care. Instead, she smirked and said, "This is what I've been saying all along. If you're not working, you should leave this house." Her words hit me hard, but I was so fed up with her behavior that I decided to stop arguing. I took a deep breath and said, "Fine, I'll leave." "Good," she replied, sounding almost pleased. "That makes things easier for me. Leave quickly." I didn't want to spend another second in that toxic house. I packed my things as fast as I could and left that same day. I headed straight to my parents' house. When I arrived, my parents were surprised to see me. They weren't expecting me, but they welcomed me warmly and made me feel at home. I waited, thinking Jack would call or send a message to check on me, but he didn't. Days turned into weeks, and there was still no word from him. I felt a little lonely, but I decided not to reach out to him. If he cared, he would contact me first. A month passed, and I still hadn't heard anything from Jack. During that time, my feelings for him began to fade. I started thinking about the possibility of divorce. It didn't seem like he cared about me or our marriage anymore. One morning, very early, the doorbell at my parents' house rang. I went to check the monitor and was shocked to see Jack and my mother-in-law standing outside. What were they doing here after all this time? "Yes? What do you need?" I asked through the intercom. My mother-in-law shouted, "I've forgiven you. Now come back home." I was stunned. Forgiven me? For what? I hadn't done anything wrong. Her words made no sense. I replied calmly but firmly, "Thank you for saying that. but I don't think I've done anything that needs forgiving. Then, I ended the intercom call, but they didn't leave. Instead, my mother-in-law started banging on the door and yelling, "Don't hang up on me. Let us in. Come back with us." Worried that their shouting and noise might disturb the neighbors, I reluctantly opened the door and let them in. I led them to the living room and invited them to sit down. Once they were seated, I asked, "Why are you here? What's going on?" I couldn't understand why they were here now. My mother-in-law was the one who had insisted that I leave. And now, she was telling me to come back. Her behavior didn't make any sense. "You told me to leave." "There's no way I can just come back now," I said firmly, still confused and frustrated by the situation. I stood my ground and told my mother-in-law exactly how I felt. She grew frustrated and accused me of being childish. She claimed that she had forgiven me and insisted I come back to live in her house. She even went as far as saying that she was willing to let someone like me, who was unemployed and uneducated, stay there. I couldn't hold back anymore. "I'm not the one who's unemployed. It's your son, Jack. And if I go back, you'll just treat me badly every single day," I snapped. Jack looked shocked when I said this, and my mother-in-law seemed confused. It was clear that Jack hadn't told her he had lost his job. Feeling the pressure, Jack finally admitted the truth. He had been laid off from his company. This led to a flood of apologies and excuses from Jack. He tried to explain that he had been relying on my income to keep us financially stable. My mother-in-law, however, was furious. She hadn't known about Jack's unemployment, and now she was openly scolding him. "Why didn't you tell me about this? What are we supposed to do now?" she yelled. Jack tried to calm her down, saying, "It's fine for now. Angela's income is enough." His response only made things worse. My mother-in-law called him worthless for not looking for a new job and scolded him even more. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had been supporting both of them all this time, and Jack had just been sitting around. I started to question why I had ever thought it was a good idea to support him in the first place. When my mother-in-law suggested again that I come back to live with them, I firmly refused. "No, I'm not coming back," I said. I couldn't imagine going back to that house after everything they had put me through. Then the situation escalated. I brought up how my mother-in-law had poured boiling water on me. Jack's face turned pale. "What? She did that to you?" he asked, horrified. "Yes," I said. "Ask her yourself." Jack confronted his mother. "Why would you do that to her?" he demanded. She admitted it, saying, "Because she ignored me. That's why I did it." Her excuse made me even angrier, and it led to a heated argument between Jack and his mother. Their shouting became too much, so I stepped in and told them, "Take this argument back to your house. You're in someone else's home, and you're being too loud." Hearing my words, they calmed down a little. Their bold and assertive attitudes softened, and they began pleading with me to come back. They promised not to treat me badly again. Jack said he would find a job, and my mother-in-law assured me she wouldn't cause any more trouble, but I didn't believe them. Their promises felt empty. I knew better than to trust them after everything I had been through. I told them honestly that their words were meaningless to me. I knew they would only take advantage of me again if I went back. Their silence confirmed my doubts. Without saying anything more, I left the living room and went to my room, leaving them to think about their actions. After about 6 minutes, I returned to the living room. They were still sitting in the same spot, their heads down, not saying a word. Frustrated by the silence, I asked, "How long do you plan to sit here without saying anything? It doesn't matter to me anymore." Instead of answering, Jack sighed deeply. He looked surprised when I handed him a piece of paper. It was a pre-filled divorce form with my name already signed on it. His face showed confusion as he looked at the document. "It's a divorce form," I said bluntly. "I've had enough. I can't stay married to someone who won't find a job and didn't even bother to contact me after I left." Jack looked shocked. "Wait, please, this is too sudden," he said, clearly upset. I found his reaction irritating. He didn't seem to understand that his actions, or lack of actions, were the reason things had come to this. He had ignored me when I needed support and left me to deal with everything alone. "I've already made up my mind," I said firmly. "No matter what you say, I'm divorcing you." Jack still couldn't believe it. "Isn't divorce too harsh?" he asked hesitantly. "No, it's not," I replied coldly. "This is your fault." I turned to his mother, giving her the same cold tone. She was just as much to blame for how badly I had been treated. She didn't say anything, but her face showed resignation. In the end, Jack signed the divorce form, though he warned me, "Don't regret this later." But I felt relieved. "The one who might regret this is you," I said confidently. "I'll submit the divorce form myself. I don't need any compensation. Just leave me alone and go home." With that, our marriage officially came to an end. It may have seemed harsh, but it was necessary for me to escape the harassment from my mother-in-law and Jack's lack of responsibility. 3 weeks later, while I was relaxing at my parents' house, I got a phone call from my ex-mother-in-law. She sounded distressed. "The electricity and gas have been cut off," she said. "Did you do something?" I calmly explained, "I stopped paying for your and Jack's living expenses. That's why." Her tone changed. She tried to ask for my help. It was clear she was hoping I would step in and fix things for them, just like I used to. I could only help for 2 months, but even that seemed like too much. Her request felt unreasonable, especially since we were no longer together as a couple and didn't live in the same house. I told her no and suggested she ask Jack for help instead. After all, he had promised to get a job and support her. She didn't understand why I refused and begged me to help her, trying to guilt me by saying she was my ex-wife. Still, I stayed firm in my decision. I ended the call and blocked her number. After that, I decided to cut ties completely with my ex-mother-in-law, who constantly bothered me, and with Jack, who had always been unreliable. Once I made these changes, life at my parents' house became much calmer. I started focusing on myself and rebuilding my life. A few months later, while I was on holiday and checking stock charts, I got a message from Jack. He apologized for everything and admitted he had relied on me too much in the past. He also told me he had found a job at a factory recently. Even though he apologized, I had no interest in reconnecting with him or anyone from that part of my life. He also mentioned that his mother was still treating him poorly and asked if I could come back. After reading his message, I realized there was no chance of us reconciling. I blocked his number too. About 5 months after my divorce, a friend introduced me to a new man. He was reliable, kind, and treated me well. Even though he was older than me, we got along great. We weren't thinking about marriage right away, but I enjoyed the happy times we spent together. I decided to focus on the present and let go of the painful memories from my past.